Hello, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to today's video, which is a continuation of my most anticipated releases. So not that long ago, I uploaded a video exclusively on historical fiction, and that's because that's my most widely read genre, and there are always more than a few books that I have my eye on. But today's video is about all of the other books that caught my eye. So this is nonfiction, biography and memoir, general fiction, literary fiction, any other genre fiction that just so happens to tickle my fancy. As a disclaimer, this is just about books published or being published between January and the end of March, so there will be more of these videos on my channel in the future. But in the meantime, why don't we dive right in? The first book that I want to talk about is one that is in fact already out. It published at the very beginning of January, and that is The Latinus by Mark Prins. Now, this is a cover that definitely did it for me. There are several books that have a very similar aesthetic that I've been drawn to in recent years. But what really got me about this book is that it's a modern day retelling of a Greek myth. And I have been enjoying retellings of Greek myths with like the Pat Barker book, Silence of the Girls, Women of Troy, Circe. So I figured I might as well just continue to ride this wave, and I honestly don't think I've read that many or any that are modern day retellings, and none that are modern day retellings of this particular myth, which is Daphne and Apollo, which, to be quite honest, I don't know a ton about, but the general premise is intriguing. It has like a dark academia vibe, and it seems like this professor kind of has this obsession with a student, or I think is like a grad student or something of his, and that's kind of the Daphne-Apollo relationship that is being, I guess, represented or depicted here. But I'm intrigued. The moment I saw this book, I was intrigued, and so this is definitely one that I want to check out sooner rather than later. The next book is A Previous Life by Edmund White, and this is a book that I feel like is giving off dark vibes, and I'm kind of feeling it, I'm kind of into it. So the overall premise seems to be that this married couple, one that is like an aristocrat and his wife, decide that they're going to write their confessions. And so they basically write their own memoirs to share with one another, detailing like their past love lives. So whether it's their previous marriages or their affairs, just anything and everything. They're going into the like dirty details. And one of the things, I'm not gonna lie, that intrigues me because I just want to know how this works, but it mentioned that one of the affairs that's described is an affair with the author. So how does that work? It can't be a memoir because it's from the perspective of someone else, I gather. So I am more than a little bit intrigued. I am really fascinated by that little snippet of information. But you know what? There's also some like Tolstoyan vibes here, because what video would be complete on this channel without me mentioning Tolstoy? But apparently Tolstoy did provide his wife Sophia with a diary of all his like sexual exploits before he met her, and she read it before they married so that she knew everything. So there is something about this that gives me that vibe too, and so I'm just gonna lean hard into it and look forward to reading this book too. The next book is Uncontrollable Women by Nan Sloan. This is nonfiction, and I am so here for it. It's basically this look at female like revolutionaries, reformists, and rebels, all in a like 50-year time period in Europe, basically from the French Revolution to the 1830s. And this is so up my street, I kid you not. When I was contemplating pursuing a PhD in history, the like project that I had kind of proposed as my dissertation was looking at female revolutionaries, partisans, and the like in Europe during the 19th century. So this is very, very close to things that I was interested in spending 6 or 7 years of my life exploring and studying, and I am so excited about it. I feel like not much is said about the women revolutionaries and reformists in this particular time period at the end of the 18th and the beginning of the 19th century. So I am very much looking forward to this book, and it also has a really fun cover. The next book is Heiresses by Laura Thompson, and this is a book that again just screams Brittany, and I'm very excited for it. It's this book that's looking at the heiresses in the 20th century who were often kind of married off haphazardly and taken advantage of by fortune seekers, as well as some of these heiresses who ended up being very philanthropic and also just being great reformists. So it's kind of taking this very broad look at these different individuals, and some of the names are names that I recognize. There was a Vanderbilt, Consuelo Vanderbilt, who I've heard of. Barbara Hutton, the Woolworth heiress, I've definitely heard of. Patty Hearst. But then there were other people whose last names are definitely familiar to me because they are like old moneyed families, like the Cunards and the Fellows. So this book seems to be one of those that will tell me more about women I already know something about, but it will also introduce me to women that I know nothing about, and that's some of my favorite things that a book can accomplish. So I'm looking forward to this one too, and I'll just say, blanket statement, I'm looking forward to all of these books. The next book is The Duchess Countess by Catherine Osler, and I will just admit that I am fascinated by nobility, royalty, all that sort of thing. So the idea that this book is focusing on this one duchess, she is the Duchess of Kingston, really got me interested. But apparently this Duchess Countess, or Countess Duchess, however you say it, was involved in like this big bigamy trial in like the 18th century. Like it was bigger news than the American Revolution in some circles. She also seems to have inspired Becky Sharp from Vanity Fair. So I'm like, this woman seems like someone I should know a little bit more about. And as I said, I do really find sort of the aristocracy and royalty fascinating, always have. So yes, also gonna pick this book up the moment it's out. The next book is In the Defense of Witches by Mona Chollet, or Cholet. I'm not entirely sure, but yes please to this book. I do have a thing for witchy things. I am fascinated by it. I have a couple nonfiction books on witches and witchcraft and like the witch trial already. But this is like a feminist look at witches written by a renowned feminist. And so I'm like, amen. But this book is looking at like the history of old women, childless women, and also sort of the independent woman, and how they have been targeted throughout history, and how even today are kind of stuck in this cycle of misogyny that stems from this like depiction and portrayal of women as witches even today. And so this sounds absolutely fascinating to me as an independent woman who falls under like that single woman category, as a childless woman. Like, this just seems like something that is going to provide an education, and I am here from it. I am here for it, rather, and I just feel like it's going to be really fascinating, and I like this lens. So yeah, I think this will be fabulous. I am very, very intrigued by the premise. The next book is After the Romanovs by Helen Rappaport, and now, again, would this list be a list by me if it did not include at least one book about Russia? The answer is no. And I have read other books by Helen Rappaport. The most recent one was Race to Save the Romanovs, which was all about the failed attempts to rescue the Romanov family, the Tsar, the Tsarina, and their children from Russia, which ultimately ended in them being executed by the revolutionaries. And this book is taking place like around the same time, kind of as all of these people, aristocrats, intellectuals, artists, have to flee Russia for their, to save their own lives. And so they end up in Paris. And this is going to be a book that's exploring this sort of diasporic group of Russians now settled in Paris to varying degrees of success. For some people, this helps their art and their writing and all of that thrive, and they do well. But for many others, they come to Paris with literally just the clothes that is on their back. And so they end up living very poor, impoverished, and disadvantaged lives in this new city. So I am here for it. It is more Russia. You know I love Russia. And I liked Race to Save the Romanovs enough that I would be interested in reading another book of hers. So I think both me and Olive have this book on our list, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I was trying not to say it. I might have gotten one or two books without saying it. I'm sorry. I know I'm a broken record. I will try harder. The next book is Fencing with the King by Diana Abu Jaber, and this is a book that seems to be a marriage of two things that I really enjoy: Shakespeare and Arthurian legend. There was mention of King Lear. There was also mention of Arthurian fables. And so I was just like, yes, sign me up. I think the premise is that this young woman ends up discovering this poem or something that her grandmother wrote during the First World War when she had escaped to Jordan, and some sort of mystery piques her interest, and the main character decides to take advantage of an invitation from her uncle, who is now an advisor to the King of Jordan, to go to Jordan, and her father, who has been very reluctant about going back, decides or is kind of strong-armed by his daughter into doing so. And so this sounds like it's going to be one of those books that has a lot of family secrets and intrigue, but also these Shakespearean and Arthurian elements that I don't know how they work together, but I am willing to see and read and figure out how it does. It sounds like there's a lot going on here, but basically the moment since I saw this book on bookshop.org, I was just like, I need to read it. I need to hear more about this. It's just fascinating to me. So that's what I'm going to do at some point. And the last book, which is book number 9, because I am lame and couldn't end on a 10. A nice round number would have been nice for a change. But this is Diamonds and Deadlines by Betsy Prioleau. So once again, this is a book about a woman that I know nothing about. In fact, I've never heard her name. Her name is Miriam Leslie, and she was apparently a titan of publishing and kind of led a somewhat scandalous life. And I love a lady who's into the scandal. It just makes things so much more interesting, let's be real. But as someone who worked in book publishing for several years and who works in magazine publishing now, I am just fascinated by anything about that world. And here's this woman who was apparently quite a big deal once upon a time, and was also a suffragette, and was doing all of these amazing things, and yet I have never heard mention of her once. So I need to rectify that situation. It sounds fantastic, to be quite honest. But as I've said on this channel, this is so my cup of tea. This is something I stan. I love reading books that are going to tell me about women that I know little to nothing about, because for so much of history, women were put in the footnotes, they haven't been the focus, and so I really love using my booktube channel to fangirl over some of these lesser known figures. And yes, I do fangirl over some really prominent historical figures as well. But this is really my jam, my bread and butter. I love it in fiction, I love it in nonfiction. Basically, give it to me in any form and I will be a happy camper. So, yes. So yeah, those are just 9 other books that I am very excited about that are coming out in the next few months. A lot of it is actually nonfiction, which is very exciting for me, and also just a lot of fun in my book. I go through phases where I can be heavy on nonfiction or I can be heavy on fiction, and recently I've been in the mood to read a lot more fiction. However, these anticipated releases will probably have me changing my tune soon enough, because there are some bops in there, I am sure. But anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some books to add to your own TBR, and if you did, certainly let me know in the comment section. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!